Table Talk. We took a short break, but I'm determined this year to be as consistent as possible with this here podcast. So I'm thankful. I'm honored. I'm feeling good because I have someone in the room that, you know, me and this dude, we cool, man. We cool. We're super cool, man. I like this guy.
Family.
Absolutely, man. This is my guy in here. He is on the DSCC. If y'all don't know what that is, we gonna explain what that is as well too, and why that's important. But my dude, my man, Corey Smith, how you doing, man?
How you doing, brother? Happy to be here.
I'm happy you came, man. That is a very snazzy suit.
Thank you, brother.
I'm a fan of that suit, sir. I'm gonna have to get your tailor's number.
Money green. We try to.
But hey, it's needed.
Making something happen.
We ain't gonna do the Marvin Sapp and lock the doors and.
No, not at all. Not today. You can keep your 40,000.
Yes. So I introduced you with your title and everything, but tell everybody what exactly is the DSCC and what goes on there.
Yes, thank you for that nice introduction. My name is Corey Smith. I am the Democratic State Central Committee member for District 61. The Democratic State Central Committee is the control or governing body of the Louisiana Democratic Party. So we oversee how the party operates on a day-to-day basis, as well as do a lot of campaign fundraising for our candidates, as well as we are responsible for the endorsements for statewide positions.
Okay. So that leads me into some questions then.
Okay.
What is going on with the Democratic Party on a state level? In recent years, the Democratic Party has lost a lot of seats state level. The Republicans have a supermajority right now in both houses. And it just seems like it just became like a avalanche or like a trend over the last few years of the Democratic Party in Louisiana, in the state of Louisiana, just losing seats. So what's really going on, man?
Well, I do believe in the recent years, the Democratic Party has been in a funny position.
Okay.
They haven't been able to really engage with their voting base. And the problem has been we haven't had a clear narrative. The message hasn't been resonating with all Louisianans. And so I do believe that has been the number one issue with the party. But now we are a new body, recently elected this last March, and we were sworn in April. And we've been on the ground running, working to change the narrative of the party, working to make new strides and try to re-engage the people of Louisiana and move the party in the right direction. So
what's the plan of re-engagement? I noticed you used that term. First, before we even get to that, before we get to the solution, let's identify what the issue could be.
Right.
What disengaged voters from the Democratic Party as far as just kind of not being active with it? Like what in your opinion, what do you think the breakdown was as far as people just not even engaging with the party?
Not having the right message, not having a clear message, not having a message that resonate with the average Democratic voter. The Democratic Party base makes up of the working class. That's our voting base.
Right.
When we talk about the average person who makes less than $50,000, the family who need some type of assistance, whether it's childcare, Medicaid, those are the base of the party. And I believe that the Democratic Party has been on defense, opposed to really getting out in the front and giving real solutions on how they plan to re-engage the people of the party. We just been more on the defense, talking about what the Republicans are doing, and opposed to really coming up with real strategies to help our voting base.
Now, I know you just said too, the base is people who, we're talking about the average everyday person, and
right.
They make less than $50,000 a year. A lot of those people, they don't want to just make less than $50,000 a year.
Correct.
So I know that, in my opinion, just from, an outsider's, purview, that could be a breakdown in messaging as well too. Is like, okay, you're talking to us, but what do I don't want to be.
What are you doing
this,
to help us?
I don't want to be in this situation. I don't want to continue being your. I don't want our base to keep consisting of people who make less than 50,000. We want to make more than 50,000. How do we then, like what's the messaging to engage with that? As far as like how are you going to give me a leg up to where I don't have to be the under $50,000 a year voter?
And it's identifying the right candidates who have a high focus on creating jobs, high paying jobs to bring into the communities. And being in the state party, one of our tasks is endorsing statewide positions.
Right.
Identifying candidates to run for state senate, to run for U.S. Senate as well. Going into those rural areas, talking to the people and identifying what their needs really are. I think that has been missing from the Democratic Party as well. Here in Louisiana, we have a high focus on New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Shreveport. Mm-hmm. But those rural areas, that's a big voting block.
Right.
And we need those people to vote Democrat as well. So, we also need to make sure we're going and search those areas to identify candidates and identify talent, because they have a great perspective that I don't believe that the state party has fully tapped into. And that will be able to also get the people to become more engaged with the party.
Right. Okay. Now, speaking of Baton Rouge has been known as a Democratic stronghold.
Right.
For years.
For decades.
Right. But last year, that got shook. And shout out to the new mayor.
Right.
But no one, if you would have asked anyone this time last year, who would be the mayor in 2025, I don't think they would have picked.
No one would have believed
Coach Mayor Sid Edwards.
No one would have believed we would have been under a Republican administration.
Right. But here we are. So, in your opinion, what kind of was this part of the larger narrative over the last few years of Democrats not having that type of engagement with people? Because Baton Rouge isn't the rural area,
right?
But is this part of that narrative? Was in your opinion, was this something different?
I believe this was something a little different. I think this was a situation of a generation gap.
Okay,
it was more dealing with an age gap. A lot of people wanted something new in Baton Rouge. They wanted a new Democratic leader in Baton Rouge. However, they wasn't anticipating dividing the votes or coming back together, unifying once their candidate didn't make it into the runoff. So again, we have to get candidates that speak to our base. And to be honest with you, and to be quite frank, really the average black man. Right. We need a candidate not saying that the black man is going to vote Republican, but the black man will stay at home and not vote at all. And that doesn't really help our initiatives. It doesn't help our party move forward and get the work done for everyday Louisiana. I get
that. I've had conversations about this on like a larger scale too, outside of just the state. But if you look at just the way the Democratic Party nationally is even promoted,
right?
If you look at take news stations for instance. So if you look at like CNN, MSNBC, and then Fox News, right? Mm-hmm. So I named the big 3 24-hour news networks, right? Black men are not really represented on MSNBC and CNN like I feel like they should be. I think, you do have a black presence there, but it's mainly black women.
Right.
And this is not a statement meant to divide that base. No. We are unified in that sense, but optics are always important. So I always look at that. And the way I'm wired, I'll look at all of them to see what all of them are reporting. Mm-hmm. It's hard to watch Fox News at times. It is, but
it's entertaining.
It's not even entertaining, man. Like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. But I watch because I need to know what they're talking about too. And one thing I noticed is they started in recent years having black men on, and not just like on a panel discussion. I'm talking about like regular host. Mm-hmm. And they're the black men that look and sound like me or look and sound like you. Like it is a distinct difference, and I feel like it was their winking a nod to black men, like saying, "Hey, we got a place for you over here." Because on, like I said, on CNN, on MSNBC, if you look up and down, if you see a black voice on there, it's mainly black women.
Right.
And for me, I'm like, okay, that ain't really, like from that perspective.
We need another perspective for sure.
Right. And even, kind of echoing your comments, you kind of caught a little fire recently with people that you were saying, I don't want to paraphrase it. Tell me exactly what you said so we can comment. I was getting ready to kind of paraphrase, but I'm like, I ain't got to paraphrase. The person who said it is right here.
Right. In the Democratic Party, I am the Congressional Caucus representative for Congressional District 6. The party is made up of various caucuses, and one of the caucuses, which represent a very small portion of the Democratic Party, was pushing a resolution to try to get the party to only endorse candidates if they would adopt the LGBTQIA plus initiative. And me personally, I believe that it's dangerous for us to require any candidate to adopt a narrative that only resonates with a small amount of people, because we are the Democratic Party. We are a united party where we're going to fight for all human rights. No matter if you're black, no matter if you're white, gay, straight, rich, poor, we want to fight for all human rights. And when we look at the Democratic National Committee platform, they have so many bullet points on what the initiative should be for the party. That is just one initiative. And my comments were very simple, that I don't want us to die on that sword alone. Because if we only talk about that issue, if we only talk about things that resonate with only a small percentage of people, we would not win elections. I think one of the issues with the Democratic Party is not truly understanding the difference between campaigning versus governing. A lot of times when you campaign, you have to campaign on issues that resonate with everybody.
Right.
When you're talking to the person that you're campaigning to, you want to make sure you build that familiarity, that connection with that voter. But when you're talking about governing, you're going to govern for the whole district, the whole state, the whole country.
Right.
So you got to factor in all people, not just a small faction. And I do believe that I have to give that caucus very much credit, and I told their caucus leader the same. They're organized. And when you very organized, you are afforded the opportunity to be loud.
Right.
And so I do believe we have to do that with other caucuses in our Democratic Party, so we can bring other issues to the forefront. That way we'll be able to re-engage the voting base.
Well, and my observation is this too. What's understood doesn't always have to be said.
Right.
If you know that, the Democratic Party is your ally, then why make them have to put everything on Front Street?
Right.
Like you don't have to go out in the street and yell, "I am a black man" in Baton Rouge. It's understood.
It's understood. I wake up as one.
Right. So, but also you have to look at this. Okay, so what's the alternative if you're trying to force these talking points into party platforms? But you have to recognize where you are.
Right.
John Bell Edwards, two-term governor, correct? Mm-hmm. And he had some platforms that were not in line with the national party.
Correct.
But he won. And you know that you're going to be able to deal with him more than the other side. It's like, what's the alternative at that point? The other side shows you where they stand on certain things.
Correct.
So for me, I'm just like, that's kind of backwards thinking, because if you know, okay, these are your allies, why then push the issue? And they're telling you, hey, we got you. We got to get them. We got to get in positions of power to have you completely. But if we campaign solely on this and it's not favorable in this area,
it's not resonating with the everyday voter.
No, it's not.
And when we're talking about people being politically engaged, we want people to get in their cars and drive to the voting polls. Today is election day here in Louisiana.
It is.
And we encourage them to get out and vote on amendments and to make all these different changes, but we have to educate them. We have to educate them on how they will truly be impacted. And I think the Democratic Party have to do more in making sure we're getting into the necessary communities, making sure that people are getting in their cars and driving to the voting polls.
Yeah, and we love to say, black people are not just a monolith and everything. So it kind of brings me back to my point with the news networks, right? If I'm watching CNN, MSNBC, if they do have a black man on there, 90% of the time, it's going to be, one that identifies as a gay black man.
Right.
Their perspective on some issues could be completely in line with mine. And then some issues, I'll be like, I don't really care. And I'm not saying that from me, but I'm just saying in general.
Right.
So, but then if you flip it on to Fox News, they've got just straight regular black dudes on there. And again, I feel like that was their wink and a nod to black. It was subtle.
Right.
But we've seen the dynamics and the demographics kind of change with voting patterns in the last few years. And I think a lot of it has to do with these cosmetic gestures. Like that. So,
and even recently, when we say how the Republican Party has hired a black executive director,
right?
And they're doing all they have to do to obtain our voting base,
yeah. Because
they know that if the black man is not politically engaged currently with the Democratic Party, that's their opportunity.
Yeah.
So what we see, where there are weaknesses, there's opportunity. So I do believe that we just have to make sure that we put more boots on the ground. We have to go into spaces that we normally wouldn't go into, and get those people registered to vote, as well as making sure that our voting base is getting in their cars and going vote.
Yeah, I mean, look at even recently, we know the news with 50 Cent coming to Shreveport.
Right.
And, he's got this long land deal and everything. He's going to bring his studios. But I noticed, and again, while this is being filmed, we're in the midst of an election day.
Right.
And right before this, maybe a day or two ago, 50 Cent made a video telling everybody, imploring people to vote for Amendment 2. And we know that a lot of the black constituency in this state is saying vote no on all the amendments.
Correct.
And I found, so we're talking about how they're kind of commandeering that vote, and they're using someone like a 50 Cent, who
they feel that people do resonate with.
Yeah.
People who do respect.
Because who don't watch a 50 Cent show at this point?
Right.
Like he's so far removed from music, but we talking about power and raising Canaan.
He's in their homes.
Right. Every week. So to have him come out and promote this, it could definitely shift that dynamic, because now people are looking, oh, maybe it's not that bad. 50 Cent is voting for it, or but this comes too from someone who may not even be aware of the political landscape of this state. He's not engaged. He hasn't he probably hasn't talked with people who are more well versed on this topic. All he knows is the governor of the state helped push this through for me, so hey,
I'm gonna support him in getting people to vote yes.
Right.
Now, that I do think is a tactic that the Republicans are using to make sure that the amendments pass. They're also expecting a low voters turnout. That's why it's important for the Democratic Party to push people to get out and vote.
Right.
Making sure that they're increasing the phone banking, and spending money on billboards, educate the people on putting the amendments in layman terms, because once you see a lot of all this word salad, they become more disconnected.
Right.
So we need to educate the average voter on just the layman terms, the average regular meaning on how they are impacted or affected by these amendment changes.
I agree. and it's an uphill battle.
It's definitely an uphill
I
battle.
will say it's definitely and that's taking it light. It is an up mountain battle at that point. Moving forward, then, tell me what tactics would you like to see the Democratic Party in the state employ to, like you said earlier, just give regular solutions for regular people so that they can see how, if I support this party, it's going to then enhance my life.
Right. Well, one of the things we recently did was hire a new executive director with the Democratic Party. I do believe we are moving in the right direction. We are now working to create a clear message that resonates with all people. We want to make sure that we don't leave no faction of people out. And I do believe that's gonna draw a lot of increase in participation to the party. We want to just really create a new narrative. Let us know that we are the new party. Is a new age in the party. We're doing a lot of great things that I do believe is going to benefit all Louisiana. And the number one thing is identifying new candidates to run for office. People with new ideas, fresh perspectives, but have experience in business, have experience in education, have experience in all these other areas and other industries, and they bringing their talents and skills to the forefront for
I think
the betterment of everybody.
I think people want to see a more well-versed
Right.
candidate. You know, I mean, we don't want to see someone who, you know, we're pushing them out there, but they have like no real job experience, so we don't know what they actually do for for like a living. Like, you know, if you've just been parading around saying I'm a community activist for the last 5 or 10 years, and then all of a sudden you're the main candidate to go up against someone who has a track record in this, and this, and then we look at your track record and it's like, well, what have you actually done?
Right, and,
you know,
and what type of policies have
actually
you influenced? What budgets have you been over? And what type of decisions do you make?
These
and
are
are
things
you
that are
making them
important.
with integrity?
Yes, these are things that are
Those
important.
are the things that we need from real candidates, from real leadership.
So what you're saying is you guys are employing more of a vetting process.
Correct.
As far as just making sure that you're getting that you're getting behind people who actually have a resume and not someone who just had a loud voice.
Right. Somebody who have a resume, as well as somebody who believes in the Democratic platform. Because a lot of times, well, I wouldn't say a lot of times, but sometimes you have these people who they would campaign and on the Democratic platform, but once they're elected, they are not making Democratic Party decisions.
Gotcha.
That benefit the party.
Right.
And it comes off as some people might view them as a Republican plant. And so we want to be very careful about who we get in our cars to vote for. And we, as a party, want to make sure we're vetting our candidates the right way.
So how far in advance are you guys looking at candidates? Because the thing that I've noticed too with campaigns, a lot of times it seems like people are making up their mind to run maybe
On a whim.
like 90 days before an election. It's like, wait, what? And one thing, you know, again, I'm a fan of strategy. I don't have to actually genuinely like the person, but I'm a fan of strategy. Mm-hmm. Jeff Landry started campaigning for governor when John Bel, I think on day 2 of John Bel was getting elected to his second term, he was already campaigning.
Right.
He was that far in advance, and you have to look at that strategy. It's like, man, like he started early because you have to build that infrastructure around you. So how early is the Democratic Party now looking to, like,
start vetting candidates?
Do y'all have someone in mind to run for governor?
Actually, what I'm doing currently, I'm working on doing a congressional caucus tour for Congressional District 6. Mm-hmm. That extends from Baton Rouge to Shreveport. It follows Cleo Fields District.
Right.
My mission is to do a listening tour where we identify candidates who want to run for statewide positions and bigger national positions, and hear their game plan, their strategies, and just get more of who the people in those communities are supporting. I say all the time, I am a fan of Adrian Perkins from Caddo Parish. I do believe
Former mayor of Shreveport.
Former mayor of Shreveport. I do believe he has the right energy to be the next U.S. senator from Louisiana. And if we identify, bring him in the fold early on, give him the resources, make the connections around the state.
Now, he did run before for U.S. Senate, correct? But he didn't have a lot of backing behind him, right?
Correct.
And I think that was part of the issue too, is that he just ran out of steam. Like, he was kind of bankrolling himself. He didn't have the weight of the party behind him.
Right. But if we give the weight of the party behind a candidate like that, I do believe it would change the narrative of the Democratic Party drastically, as well as it'll shape the new politics in Louisiana.
Do we have someone to run for governor yet? Anybody in mind? Do y'all have a short list? Somebody, because as I stated before, Jeff Landry started running for governor when John Bel Edwards got his second term. We are now in year 2 of Jeff Landry's administration. Do we have somebody? Now is the time.
I do know, like I said, I'm doing a caucus tour, and I know a couple other caucus representatives are doing caucus tours.
Of course, I know what I'm doing. I can't speak for everybody else.
We are looking for the next governor of Louisiana. That is one of the things we are doing. We're looking for the next Democratic governor of Louisiana. So I'll be going from Baton Rouge to Shreveport, speaking with people that's interested, people that are already making strides, some movers and shakers, and hopefully we will have a potential candidate soon, by July.
Thank you. It pays to plan in advance.
That's what we're working on. Hopefully we'll have a suitable candidate by July.
Now, with this tour that you're planning on doing too, I noticed you mentioned congressional and everything. Right now, Republicans in the state have supermajority.
Right.
How do you guys plan on flipping that landscape? I know you were saying reach out to more people.
Working with the local DPECs.
Okay.
Getting the local DPECs that's not truly activated in certain areas of the state, getting them activated. Doing more trainings with the local DPECs, because a lot of times, not all politics are local.
Correct.
And everything starts on the ground level. But a lot of times in those rural areas, though they have big voting blocks, but the ground game isn't there. They don't have any real field strategy. And so my mission is to make sure we are working with those local DPECs in, like, my hometown of Bastrop, up in Morehouse Parish.
Shout out to Bastrop.
Shout out to Bastrop.
There you go. Go ahead, shout them out.
But making sure that we are working in those rural towns like that to get those people politically engaged, because we need them to get in their cars and go vote as well. Everybody have to be buy-in. We need all hands on deck.
Okay. Now, do you plan on taking bites from the Republican apple? Maybe kind of. I mean, they've made strides in what normally is a solid base for Democrats. Are you guys planning on trying to make strides and try to say let's try to take, some voters from them as well?
Correct. Definitely. That's one of the things we're working on as well as independent voters. Trying to build a stronger rapport with the independent voter base, because we already know those are votes that's up for grabs.
Right.
And if we have a clear message and we teach and preach that message to the independent voting base, we know we can obtain their votes. So my mission is education, training. Train the voters or train the local DPECs to get out and have GOTV in place. Have trained phone bankers, as well as fundraising. Teach them how to fundraise, how to raise money, because we can't win campaigns without having the proper backing. And the party hasn't really done a great job of putting money behind our candidates.
Yeah.
We'll put a ballot out and we'll promote them on social media, but we need to put real money behind our candidates to pay for workers, to pay for a real street game, strategies that will make sure that we win the elections.
Who are the risers? You mentioned Adrian Perkins earlier, but who are a few maybe other names that the party has their eye on? Like, okay, I think we can get behind this person or that person.
Oh my, it's a lot of different people that they have talks about. I don't want to mention their names currently because it's
Oh yeah,
a lot
I get
of
it.
different.
You don't want to give too much of the strategy away.
As well as I don't want to make it appear that I'm endorsing any one of these people.
Right.
The only person that I would verbally endorse currently right now, as we're sitting here, is Adrian Perkins.
Gotcha.
And that's because he's from North Louisiana. He's from the 318. I'm very familiar with his politics. I think he is a new, fresh idea, fresh perspective that the state of Louisiana will benefit from.
I mean, heck, he went to West Point,
Yep.
and the man's resume is kind of
It's impressive.
It's very impressive. Okay, so we mentioned that. You don't have to mention any names. Who are y'all gonna run for mayor in the next 3.5 years now? Because again, I brought this point up. Jeff Landry started campaigning soon as John Bel Up was won his second term. So the need for long game thinking, I think, has to be there. And
Right.
especially with, and this is no slap to the current mayor or whatever. I mean, I don't think he's even 100 days in so far. So I mean, he could be the best thing since sliced bread. We don't know. But we're talking just from a political standpoint with parties. And are you guys looking at that race at this point? Because what happened last year is that you had two powerhouses in the race as well too. And like you said, that splits the vote, and there's a lot of, it kind of muddies the water a bit.
Right.
Do you guys you don't have to name any names, but have there been any discussions on, okay, who are we going to now get behind in the next mayor's election? Are we thinking that far ahead?
We are thinking that far ahead. As far as DSCC, we defer those type of decisions to the local DPECs. But I do sit on the EBR DPEC, and I represent District 6 here in Baton Rouge. And that is one of the things we're talking about now. Who's going to be our next candidate for mayor? I don't want to give too much away.
No, don't give too much away. I just want to. I'm just asking. Has there been discussions?
There has been plenty of discussions. There have been plenty of discussions, and I do believe that the person that they are putting forward will make a great candidate. Has a lot of support and will be a good look for the Democratic Party on a local level.
Okay. Have they run for mayor before? This is me trying to get an answer without an answer.
They do have experience. I will say they have a lot of experience in politics. They are local. They are a child of Baton Rouge. They were born and raised here in Baton Rouge. And the party is supporting them full force.
Okay, all right. I'll take that. My mind is kind of going different places, so
that could be anybody.
That could be anybody, or it could be one person in particular that I'm thinking about. We don't know, and we're gonna leave it there. I'm not gonna press anymore. Okay, we'll talk off camera.
Yeah, off the record.
I'll get the off the record, and then y'all still won't know, but I'll know. So. We've talked about the future and the current state of the party in this area, and you said that you are hopeful. You feel like with this new regime, you guys are going to make strides. Do you have any benchmarks in place as far as to measure the success that you're anticipating for the party?
I have benchmarks in place, and like I said, we just recently hired a new executive director. And I'm working closely with him as well as the executive committee to create new benchmarks to make sure that we have some type of criteria for success. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times if we don't have a criteria for success, we would just be spinning our wheels, but we won't really see true progress because we don't really have anything to measure it by. And I don't want to just be out here doing initiatives and not really seeing true impact. So we're working.
Okay, well,
we're working.
Well, Corey, I really thank you for coming through. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for all your hard work, not only with, with your current position, but just in the community in general. I mean,
Thank you.
you do a lot in the community. I'll see you. I'll be out and about, and I'll just see you, and you just like you at this place, you at that place, but you're always working. So, just as from a citizen standpoint, thank you for everything that you're doing in the community. Keep up the good work. And I look forward to seeing what else you're going to do in the future.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for having me.
All right. So listen, man, that's been another edition. Just always remember, you're either at the table or you're on the menu. And it's your decision. We out.